Hi, and welcome to Draw to Grow, a place where I passionately explore how art can transform, heal, and make us grow. So, if recently you've been going in circles trying to make an important decision but still feeling stuck, today's practice is for you. I know exactly how you feel because I've been stuck between two life choices in the last month, and these choices would define my future life. That's how important it is. And I know how it feels like waking up with a different decision in your mind and be flooded by fear or maybe even grief of not choosing the other option. There are a lot of feelings and a lot of mental noise. So today we'll be using neurographic art to calm down that mental clutter, that mental chatter, whatever the English word is. We will take you out of your situation and place you in a different position so you have a different perspective on the situation and hopefully connect to the deeper part of yourself. By the way, if you are a complete beginner, I've got a separate video of what is it, how to use it properly, how to draw the lines. So please check it out somewhere on the screen. If you're in my channel, you definitely know what art therapy is, and the main goal of art therapy is using art to express the feelings, to externalize what's inside, and then maybe it will be transformed if you're working with a professional art therapist. Neurographic art is a much more structured and guided process. It's a very practical tool. If art therapy is more of a psychotherapy, neurographic art is more of a coaching. So there is some sort of result after the practice. And it's funny because it was created by a male originally, and art therapy is more like a female way of doing things, and neurographic art is more of a male approach. And it's perfect for exact situations like this one, when you feel stuck in somewhere and you need to get out of that. I guess the clarity would be the main word that would describe neurographic art. So you can use it in any situation when you need clarity rather than just expression. Another important thing to mention is neurographic art requires time dedication. So unlike art therapy, where you can express yourself within 5 minutes, have at least 1 hour of time with no distractions around you. And by distractions, I mean family, TV on the background, absolute no, and even music, because music can set you in a particular mood. It could define the decision, it could define how you feel about things. Treat it as this wonderful time with yourself where you chose with intention to say, I love what's going on inside me and I'm going to listen to it. So that's exactly what we'll be doing today. You will need an A4 sized paper. You can either use a cartridge paper, or I'll be using the painting paper purely because it's thicker and there is more joy to work on it. Basically, neurographic art is recommended to use permanent black markers. These are the most famous brands in UK. I'm not sure about US and other countries. When you apply the color on top of those markers, they're not smudged. However, I personally prefer using the liner pen. Mine is 0.7 or 0.8, whatever it is, the size. And the reason for that, it just gives you so much more pleasure to go through the process. It can get a little bit smudged, so it's up to you what you prefer. And again, traditionally, the best coloring tool for neurographic art is markers, markers, and especially those highlighters. But you can also use pencils. By the way, this is not an advert. These are my favorite ones, and I do recommend choosing something that's very bright and pigmented. And as always, we will also need a notebook and a pen to make notes. So first step is formulating a topic, which should be ideally 1 or 2 words that represent your situation. For example, if I'm deciding between buying a house or keep renting, the topic could be something like my future home, ideally something positive. So write down your topic, write in topic 1.0, and then time 2 minutes and write down as many word associations as possible, ideally at least 20. They could be related, unrelated, positive, negative, just spill it out. Take everything internally that we just gathered and put it onto the paper. Take a breath in and then out, and let your hand move as quickly as possible across the page without taking your hand off the page, and count till 3, maybe 1, 2, 3, and then stop. So here's what you get, the first expression of that internal tension. And as you're doing this, or the whole of this neurographic art session, notice your body, your feelings, your thoughts, maybe any images that come up. Everything matters today. So now what we'll be doing is we'll be rounding every single corner that appeared when lines crossed each other. Every time 2 lines or more lines cross, they create little angles. And our aim here is to round and soften every angle, so there is no sharpness between those lines. What's also important is to go on top, draw on top of the original lines. As you see, I'm doing that in a slightly wobbly way. Perhaps pressing on your marker or a pen a little bit harder. At this point, we still want to keep your mind within that loop that you're already in. So think about different decisions you want to make, think about the frustration that you can't make that decision. Just stay with the topic, stay with the feeling. You might get thoughts that don't seem directly related, but somehow they still feel connected. You might find a meaning in those thoughts later. Here's something important. In this process, we're not trying to find meaning in the image. I've got a different video about Jungian art therapy process where we're doing similar thing and we try to find an image association. It's important in that in neurographic art we are not deliberately not trying to find any image, because that image would be again a representation of that loop that you're in. We're trying to get out of any images that appear at this point. So let's go beyond it. Let's start extending the lines. And sometimes you can see those little hooked lines. Is that the way you say it? So you can extend the edges and add neurographic line towards the end of the paper. Again, there is a proper way to do this. Here we're trying to challenge our mind, so we don't lead the lines the way that our hands naturally want them to go. Instead, we are trying to go to slightly different directions for where your hand is trying to go. So let's say you want to go to the right, maybe I'll turn slightly to the left, and etc, etc. So our goal here is to create a tension. You'll feel it in your brain if you do it right. Extend those lines, but also you can add more lines, extend them from other parts of your drawing. The more lines, the better. It's just so you understand there is more work to do later, the more lines you have. And then we'll be rounding every corner that appeared again. And sometimes new thoughts appear here. So just stay with the process and see what emerges. So next step is the most fun step, is coloring. Everybody loves this. Choose any colors that you want to use. However, there are some rules of applying the color. In neurographic art, we don't color each of those islands separately. Instead, we are trying to create flows of color. I like to perceive it as a flow of energy, or you can use your own association or word for that. Take a few of those islands together and spread the color throughout them, so you can have like a line of that color. Some people, and I did it today, are using gradients, which is a really fun technique, so you can add similar colors together and gradient them together. You might notice your state changing, because that's how we enter this inner child mode. And I do encourage you to have a proper play in here. So even when you're choosing colors, try not to choose colors that feel safe, that are going well together. Pick the color as the child would pick them. For me, it was gray. At first, I hesitated. However, in the future, I realized that that was actually one of the main colors in this drawing for me, and that made a lot of sense for me personally. So again, see how your state changes, how it becomes maybe lighter, or some important feelings come to the surface now. In colors, you usually start to have associations, some emotions, some maybe memories coming up. All of this is important. Now, another important step is adding a circle somewhere in your drawing. So you need to draw a circle on top of your drawing. Sometimes you will have existing lines that feel like they already are forming a circle, or you can draw a completely random circle anywhere you want, any size you want, whatever feels right. And make the circle thicker and round every corner that is created by crossing the original lines. You can think of this circle as a kind of focus point within a much bigger field of possibilities. Yes, there is life with so much possibilities, so many decisions, but after all, we have to focus on something particular. We have to make either a particular decision or take a particular path. As you draw it, just stay with this idea that there is a path that is right for you here. There is a perfect solution in your situation. Maybe you're just not aware of it yet. You don't need to figure it out now as you draw. Just notice what comes up, and after you sleep on it, maybe in a couple of days, this will definitely start showing itself. Our last step, we're almost here, bear with me. Draw a line from bottom to the top of your drawing, and it can be one line or a few lines, just like we did it with a circle. Make it thicker and round all of the corners that appear. And you know what? I'm not going to explain to you why we're adding this or what it means. Let's see what came up for you after you drew it. What changed? Maybe you had some new feelings or thoughts, or something suddenly appeared within you, and please share in comments with me what that line meant for you. And now let's take your notebook again where you wrote the first topic, and now we're going to repeat the initial exercise. Instead of the topic that you've created before, you write down topic 2.0, and as you look at your image, think of how this topic has changed. There is a chance they could stay the same, but after you've had this drawing, after you had this process, how would you call this topic? And write it down. And then time 2 minutes again and write down your associations. Usually what I notice in my private neurographic sessions, these words are very different from the original words. Again, please share in comments with me how this changed for you. That would be very interesting for me to hear. So that was fun. I hope it was for you. You know how we wrote down a topic 2.0? This is a beauty of neurographic art. If you want to deepen your work with a particular topic, you can keep drawing, keep doing. You can do these drawings every day. It's just a question of time. But next time, you can already use this new name of the topic, write down more associations, and then work again with the same topic. It's literally, you can do it 10 times until you get the personal clarity and personal understanding that was enough work. Just like in art therapy, in neurographic art, you need to almost sleep on it. You will start either creating or seeing situations in life that would make you progress towards one of your decisions. The universe or the psyche, or whatever you call it, always notices that, and you will see the reflection of it in the outside world. Maybe you will have that important conversation with someone who was involved in this decision. Maybe you will notice a sign outside on the street and go somewhere and discover something that will help you with that decision. Please share with me your personal magic, share your struggles, and thank you so much for your feedback on my community posts. I was so delighted to see real faces of you who's watching me. I feel like we could all be friends. At least that's my ENFP personality type things. But sometimes one comment of somebody appreciating the video means the world and literally fuels you for the week, because you understand that you did create some meaning in this world, and this is such a beautiful feeling. Thank you for that, and I'll see you next time. Bye.